This conference will now be recorded.
Hey guys, can you all hear me?
Yes, sir.
A very good morning and good evening, guys. So we'll start with a couple of questions. How many of you are part of demo on Saturday, guys? Oh, okay, let me change my question. Who are joining today? Who are joining this as a first session? Who haven't attended my demo on Saturday?
Yeah, myself, this is the first session.
Okay. Anybody else?
Me too. This is
Oh,
Tejasri.
okay. Anybody else, guys? Prasanna, okay. Cool. You guys don't need to worry because I haven't covered much on demo because I just walked them through the course content and then given some introduction about Python, which would be repeated again. So you don't really need to bother about that. Okay. Welcome to the session, guys. We'll start with quick introductions. Okay. And once we are done with the introduction, I will introduce Python 2, right? Okay, so let me introduce myself. My name is Suresh. I have been with Career IT for almost 3 years now as a trainer. I have been training a couple of courses in Career IT, guys. One is Python and second one is data engineering on Azure platform. Okay, so basically it's PySpark, Azure Synapse, Azure Data Factory, ADLS, and there is a huge list. Okay. And before career IT, I was working as a trainer for Collabora, and then I worked for Digital Link, one of the local institute in Hyderabad, and I have worked for Cognition Act, and I have taken a couple of classes for Edureka as well. Okay, so this is my training background. I have trained more than 500 students in Python, and I have trained more than 1,000 students in data engineering. So back then it was called as Hadoop. Then they changed it to Spark. Then now there is no terms like Hadoop, ETL, or Spark. They are using a generic term called data engineer. Okay. And talking about my project experience, I mean work experience, I have been working as a data engineer for almost 7.5 years now, and I have been using Python from past 4 years. Okay. Apart from Python, I also have exposure to Java and Scala, right? And I come from a computer science background, so I do know C, C++ as well, right? So currently I'm working for an MNC as a data architect. Okay, so this is a brief introduction about me. Now I would like to hear from you. Guys, again, you don't need to unmute yourself, guys. The reason being this session is being recorded. Okay, so I don't want to have that unnecessary interruptions when you go back and listen to the sessions. So try to use the chat window as much as possible. But if you're not able to use the chat window, that's totally fine. You can unmute yourself and talk. Okay, so you have that access to unmute. We are not restricting unmuting access. Okay, so you should be happily be able to unmute yourself and talk, but try to restrict yourself as much as to unmute. Okay, so this is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for from you your name and then your experience and then the technology you're currently working on. So for example, I'm Suresh. My experience is around 8 years, and then the current technology I'm working on is data engineer or my role. If you are a fresher, your job is pretty simple. So it should be as simple as Suresh and then fresher. So basically, this would give me a background of my students, and I will have an idea of where to start from. Okay, hi Prasanna. You can ping it to everyone, or you also have an option to ping it to me, guys. Hi Bharat, 10 years data architect. Perfect. So what are the technologies you are working, Bharat? So you planning to learn Python and get into Spark side? Shyam Sandeep, fresher. Tejasri doing you masters. Hi Tejasri. Hi Tejasri, sorry. Hi Ramesh. Hi Pradeep. Unix real SQL plus great. So Bharat, when you say Hadoop stack, you should be already knowing Java, right? If you have used MapReduce, I mean just out of curiosity. Okay, so you are using Hive Peak.
Basically, we will not using anything because we are just solution providers actually. So
Okay,
basically, my role is majorly involved in the designing part actually.
okay, so you don't have your hands dirty in these tools, right?
Yeah, that's right. Only we will use these stacks only for performing some data analysis, like using Hive, so
Gotcha.
other stacks like Zeppelin and all.
Gotcha. Okay. So now I think you are aiming for PySpark.
Pardon?
So you are learning Python for PySpark.
No, actually, I am just a very beginner in Python actually. So I just want to explore more on Python. So
Got you.
yeah.
Got you. Cool. So anybody else? There are few introductions. Anybody else would like to introduce yourself, guys? Nagarjuna, fresher. Hey, hi Nagarjuna. I hope everyone is able to see my screen, right? You should be seeing an open book. So, welcome to my course, guys. Python. Okay. And the course you are going to learn here is Python 3. Okay. So, you will be learning Python 3, right? And, yesterday I have walked you through the course curriculum, the demo on Saturday, sorry. If you want to go through the demo, please feel free. Get back to our career IT folks. They will be sharing the course content. Okay, so basically our course is divided into modules. You can just go through them, and then if you want to have a discussion with me, please feel free. Our career ready folks would arrange that for you. Okay, so let's get started. Today's session could be little repetitive for the folks who have already joined demo. It's not entirely repetitive, but it could be repetitive to some extent. Okay, and there are few rules in my session, guys. Let me tell you. First things first, our session starts at 7 a.m. sharp, and I request everyone to respect others' time. Okay, so I want you guys to join by 7:05 a.m. IST. I'll be starting the session by 7:05 a.m. IST sharp. Okay, and just in case if you missed maybe first 5 minutes or first 10 minutes of the session, you can always go through the recordings, guys. You can always go through the recordings. Okay, so by the end of this session or by the end of the day, our support folks, our career IT support folks would be uploading the recording to the Google Drive, which you all will have access to. Okay, you can go through the recording there. Not just the recording, we will be uploading all the artifacts you will see on the session. Okay, so be it the document or be it the code or be it the notebooks, whatever I use will be given to you. And then whatever you see on my screen or whatever I write on my screen will not be provided. So please feel free and take screenshots uh, whenever you feel something important is written on the screen. Okay, and next thing, I want every one of you to be as interactive as possible, guys. Okay, because this is not a classroom session and I will not be able to interpret anything from your expressions, whether you understood something or whether you didn't understand something. Okay, so I want you to be interactive in the chat. Okay, so whenever I have asked for an acknowledgement, please do that. All it takes is a word, typing a word, yes, no, or maybe. Okay, whenever I ask for an acknowledgement, are we good or am I making sense? Okay, I'm just expecting a one word reply from you, either yes, no, or maybe. Okay, and next thing, I take tens of sessions, guys. Okay, so I won't say hundreds of sessions in a year, but I would take tens of sessions, and in each session, I would at least have 10 to 15 students. Okay, So by the end of this session, I'll be sharing my contact details too. Okay, so try to be as interactive as possible because whenever I have asked for an acknowledgement or whenever I have asked for something, I would be looking at the folks who acknowledge regularly. And the moment I got those 4 5 acknowledgements, yes, 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 I will be moving to the next topic. And I want every one of you to be try to be in that list. Okay, and also I remember the names of people who interact a lot with me. Okay, because it's going to be a long journey of 45 days where you'll have to bear my sessions every day in the morning or evening if you are from US. Okay, so let's try to add a lot of fun elements, guys, rather than having these sessions monotonous. For me to come up with those kind of things, you have to be supportive. Okay, because I don't believe in one-way teaching, where I teach like a class teacher, blah, 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 blah. No. Okay, I'm your mentor and I'm gonna mentor you to learn Python. I'm gonna provide you a good path to get started with the Python. And for me, it doesn't matter you are a 20-year-old experience or 30-year experienced guy. It doesn't really matter. I'll be treating you as a fresher. I'll be treating you as a fresher, just like right out of the engineering institute. Okay, I'm gonna teach everything right from the basics. Okay, like I said, you'll have to bear with me. The reason being, there are a lot of freshers here, and there are a lot of experienced folks who have never done any kind of programming in their career. Okay, so in the interest of them, I'll be teaching everything right from the basics. Okay, so but like I said, you have to be very supportive, guys, for me to push my limits. Okay, and then give you the best. Am I making sense? Yes, no, maybe. Okay, so like I said, I'll be making everything so simple for you to understand. Okay, but I need your complete support. Okay, all the support you have to give is acknowledging whenever I have asked for. Okay, and in my sessions, you are free to use Google. The motto behind asking questions is to make you interactive, not to test your knowledge. So nobody is here to prove something to anyone, right? So you can always use Google. Whenever I have asked for some question, keep that Google browser handy, and then you can type it in Google, just copy and paste the answer. Okay, at least that way you are trying to be interactive, and I appreciate it. Okay, so try to be as interactive as possible. That would, motivate me. Okay, even it's not easy for me, guys. Waking up at 6 a.m. and taking a session at 7 a.m. IST after working till 11 p.m., 12 a.m. at night. Okay, so I want you guys to be interactive. I want you guys to be pushing my limits. Okay, and we will make an agreement, you and me, before the start of this course. Okay, so I guess every one of you are paying your hard-earned money, if I'm not wrong. Okay, so more than money, you are spending 45 hours of your life into learning something. Okay, so if you lose money, you can earn it some other time. But if you lose time, you cannot get back even a single second. So I respect your time, I respect your money. At the same time, I want you to respect your time and your money. So make sure whenever you are leaving a session, you understood everything. You understood everything that is taught in the session. Okay, so if you have some unconnected dots, if you feel like you are inconvenient somewhere, just make sure you stop me and then make your understanding clear and leave the session pretty happily. So that is the reason I keep using this term happy learning. Okay, you should enjoy the way you are learning. Okay, are you with me? If you are able to do this, I can guarantee you guys, you will observe a lot of change in your programming approach by the mid of our course. I'm not talking till the end of our course. By the mid of our course, by the time we complete couple of modules, you'll see a lot of difference in your programming approach, the way you think, the way you approach solutions. I can guarantee you that. And I'll be providing all the assistance, guys, giving you all the websites where you can find some good tutorials apart from my recordings. And then I'll give you some YouTube channels where you can find more examples. I'll give you hackathon links where you can practice more examples. Okay, so I'm with you, right? So let's get started, guys. I'm gonna introduce Python today, and then we'll continue our sessions. We'll take baby steps in the first week, and then we'll increase the pace. And also in my sessions, right, we will have introspection regularly. Okay, when I say regularly, once in a couple of weeks, we will have an introspection session where I'll be asking you a few questions. You be genuine to yourself and give me the genuine answers, and I'll be telling you what you need to do to improve yourself further. Okay, cool. So before we start, any questions for me? Like I said, Ramesh, I don't assume any of you have any programming knowledge. In fact, I don't assume any one of you know about a computer. Okay, so I'll be starting from that level. So you don't really need to worry about that. Please be regular and then everything will fall in place for you. Because a lot of freshers might come from civil background, electronics background, or mechanical background. So I don't even treat you guys like a computer science background guy. In fact, even they don't know anything. That's a different story altogether. I'm a computer science background guy. I didn't know anything before I joined TCS. TCS was my first company. Okay, cool. Are we good to start? Perfect. So once again, welcome to my sessions, guys. Python. Like I said, we will be learning Python 3 here. Okay. And before we talk about Python, let's talk about the program. So what is a program, guys, according to you? What is a program according to you? So forget about even a program. So what is a computer to you? Any answers? Program teach to computer. Okay. So what is a computer to you? Program is a set of instructions. Okay. Set of instructions to execute and provide some insights. Okay, so let me explain, guys. For me, computer is a dumb machine device which makes analytical and mathematical operations. Okay, I agree with all your answers. Okay, but for me, computer is a dumb machine because without a proper mentor, your computer is nothing, right? Let it be capable of doing anything, but it needs someone to instruct it, and that guy is whom we refer to as programmer. Okay, and the instructions we provide to the computer is what I refer to as program, as simple as that. So program is nothing but a set of instructions given to a computer to get a task done, as simple as that. I repeat, a program is a set of instructions given to a computer to get a task done. Okay. So, what is the most used software in your PC, guys? It could be a laptop or a desktop. So, what is the most used software in your PC? So, every one of you, I hope every one of you is using PC. Satish says Chrome. What else? Teams, Outlook. I know you're paying Vijay. Okay, our day starts with Outlook and ends with Teams meeting. Rama Teams. Okay. What else? Safari. Okay. Mac user. AV. Okay. Microsoft Edge. Ramesh. Okay. Teams and Outlook, Excel. Okay. So what exactly are these softwares? Um, have you ever got into that thought? So what exactly are these softwares? OS is also a software access and interface. Okay, agreed. But let's not get into OS. But we'll talk about the softwares that are installed in your PC. Okay. So did you ever thought in this direction? So what exactly are these softwares? Yes, no, maybe. So Excel is a software, Teams is a software, Outlook is a software, Microsoft Edge is a software which falls into browser category. You know, Outlook is a software which falls into mail category, right? Teams is a software which falls into collaboration category. Okay, so there are softwares. You know, there are different names with which we call them, softwares, tools, etc. So what exactly are the softwares? Software comprises the entire set of programs, procedures, perfect. Okay, so put it in a simple term, a software is nothing but a program. How many of you agree? Let's not get into the complex softwares. Let's just take a simple calculator software. So every one of you know this, right? We have a calculator software, calculator application in our PC. Yes or no? At one or the other point, every one of you must have used it. Agreed or not? Okay, so it's nothing but a software. So I'm going to take that simple software into consideration. So what exactly we do in calculator? We do all the mathematical operations, right? So how we are able to do that? What's happening in the back end? In the back end, you know, some program is running which would instruct your computer what to do. So for example, you want to calculate 10 plus 20. Sorry, the moment you type 10 plus 20 and click on equals to, so it would trigger the part of code which would calculate addition, or which would do that addition. Maybe if you click on divided by operator, it will just go and check for the code which do that divide by operator in the backend. Okay, so where is this program? Where is this program getting executed, guys? Okay, before we go there, so every one of us are on the same page, right? Whenever we are using a software, a program is running in the backend. Yes, no, maybe. Are we on the same page? Everyone agree to that? Okay. So now my question is, where is that program getting executed? Backend, that's okay, but where exactly in the backend? Because in backend we get a lot of CPU, perfect. But can you can you talk about that specific component in the CPU? Compiler is again a software. It's a motherboard, no? Okay. So again, let's take one step back, guys. Uh, so how many of you are using Snapdragon processor in your mobile? So generally, whenever you are purchasing a mobile, right? So you will be looking at the processor. Agreed or not? So in addition to camera, camera being the primary requirement these days, but in addition to camera, we will also be looking at few other parameters, which includes RAM and then internal storage and also processor. So how many of you are using Snapdragon processors? Snapdragon or Helios or whatever. Okay. So in that Snapdragon or Helios or whatever the processor you know, what is the important thing you will be looking for? Speed, okay. What else? Processing power. So how do you decide on that processing power? Exactly, I got the word I'm looking for, Sriram, and Srirama, core. Okay, so core is the component which would decide the capability of your processor. Okay, so when you say octa-core, it has 8 cores. When you say hexa-core, it has 6 cores. When you say quad-core, you have 4 cores. Okay, so whatever the program whatever the program that is running will be running in cores, guys. So in your processor, there is a component called core, and your program would be running in those cores. Okay, so let's say this is a processor, and generally i5 has 4 cores. i5 is a quad-core processor. So if you are using Intel chipset, so any other platforms, guys, be it Ryzen or be it anything else, you know, it will they will be executed in cores, and they all have cores. Ryzen 3, Ryzen 5, Ryzen 7. This is AMD family. Intel i3, Intel i5, Intel i7, i9. This is Intel family. Similarly, for Mac, they have introduced the M1 series now, M1 chip. M1 is also an octa-core processor. Okay, so let's assume these are cores 2, 3, and 4. So your program will be executed in these cores, one of these cores. Okay, so what is this significance, guys? Quad core, octa core? What is the significance? Quad core, octa core, or hexa core? Perfect, parallel processing. So it depends how many processes that can run in parallel. So if you have octa-core processor, if you have octa-core processor, 4 programs will be running in parallel. Okay, or it can run 4 programs in parallel. And then if it is a quad-core processor, if it is an octa-core processor, you can run 8 processes simultaneously. Hexa-core 6 processors simultaneously. You might ask me a question, boss, I have an octa-core processor Snapdragon in my mobile, but I usually have, you know, tens of applications open. So according to what you said, it should be limited to only 8 apps, right? Okay, so that's not the case, guys. Generally, scheduling will come into picture. So scheduling will come into picture. There is something called a scheduling which will come into picture. So let's say you have 10 programs running, program 1, program 2, program 3, or we call them as processes, program 5, so on and so forth till program 10 or process 10. there are a lot of scheduling algorithms. I don't want to get into that operation system concepts, but one easily understandable algorithm is round robin. Okay, so this round robin algorithm would allocate resources for these processes in round robin fashion. So for example, resources to this process one for some time, and then process two for some time, process three for some time, so on and so forth. You might ask me, boss, then why don't we observe lag? Okay, so you won't observe the lag because the the clear time or the time that is allocated to these P1, P2, P3, P4 will be in microseconds, guys. The latency will be in microseconds. Okay, and in modern day processors, you will not be observing that lag. You will still observe lag when the number of processes you are running increases. Say for example, maybe some kid in your family, it could be your kid or it could be your neighbor's kid or your relative's kid. Okay, let's say he's playing some Temple Run or Subway Surfer in your mobile. They're old games though, and he observes some lag in the game. So what will he do immediately? What will he do or what will you do? Not just these two games, you are using some application and then you see some lag in that particular application. So the immediate solution would be yes, refresh, or generally we clear the RAM or we clear the processes. We open all the recent apps and then we'll clear them, correct? So what happens in that scenario? So generally, if 20 processes are running, when you clear, all of them will be cleared, and it will run only the app that is open. Okay, which means all the resources are being allocated to that one process for time being. Okay, so here I'm referring to resources. What exactly are these resources? What exactly are these resources? Yes, memory. What else? Is it just memory or anything else? Caching is fine, but I don't want to get into that level detail. To put it in a simple term, memory plus processor, guys. So memory is nothing but RAM. Always remember, whenever we call memory, means RAM. And whenever we are using this term storage, this refers to hard disk. Okay, so this is called as storage because it is permanent. It is called as memory because it is temporary. Okay, so whenever we say processors is nothing but cores. Okay, now let's say this is our processor and let's assume this is our RAM. So what is the significance of RAM, guys? What is the significance of RAM, or how RAM would be helping you? Go for a guess. Speed of execution. What else? Temporary storage, yes. Okay, so basically RAM stores your data. RAM stores your data that is required for this program to execute. Okay, this program requires to execute. As simple as that. Okay, so RAM doesn't decide speed of execution directly. Indirectly, yes, but directly, no. Okay, I'll take a simple example which you all can understand. Let's say you have a .mp4 file. You have a .mp4 file. Maybe let's say you want to play some movie. spiderman.mp4. Okay, and to play this, you need a media player. You need a media player. Any media player. Media player can be Windows Media Player or VLC Media Player or whatever it is. Now let's talk about VLC Media Player, which is pretty famous and known to everyone. VLC Media Player. So what is this VLC Media Player? This VLC Media Player is a software and it is a program. And it is a program. Now this program has to be executed on this data. This program has to be executed on this data for you to watch the movie. Let me take a pause here. Agreed or not, everyone? Yes, no, maybe. Everyone? Okay. Now, the moment you click on this sm.mp4, spiderman.mp4, this spiderman.mp4 is loaded to your RAM. And your VLC media player, right? VLC media player program would be executed in one of the other core which is available. Okay, so your RAM stores data. So if your RAM is more, it can accommodate more data. If your RAM is less, it will accommodate less data. So both of them together will contribute for performance. Let's say I have an octa-core processor, but I have only 4 GB RAM. Your processor is capable enough to run 8 processes parallelly, but is your RAM capable of storing data that is required for 8 processes? A big question mark. Okay, so your RAM and the processor should always complement each other. Okay, so you want to process bigger data sets, you need to have good RAM, and you want to process or run more parallel processors, you should need the bigger RAM, sorry, bigger processor. Okay, which will have more cores. Okay, now let me take a pause here. Are we on the same page? Yes, no, maybe. You might think why I'm teaching all these things, guys. These are the things which would help you to understand a programming language better, the internals of programming language. Okay, so let me introduce a couple of terms to you. Have you ever heard of these terms? Time complexity and then space complexity. Have you ever heard of these terms, time complexity and space complexity? Yes, no, maybe, no, okay. One no. What about others? Two no's. Sai, yes, okay. Yes, drama, okay. Yes, and but high level. Ilma, maybe. Vijay, no, okay. Now, if you don't know these two terms, you will not be able to clear an interview in any product company, guys. Okay, let me tell you what, be it Google, be it Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, whatever it is, you will not be able to clear interview in any of these companies. Okay, service companies, yes, you might be able to clear, but I mean, you will definitely be able to clear it without knowing time complexity and space complexity because nobody cares there, right? So I'm a computer science graduate. Okay, when I got introduced to these terms in I think third semester, 2-1, second year, first semester, in a subject called data structures. Okay, back then these terms were like monsters for me. You know, I gave up a lot of dreams of mine just because I didn't understand what exactly they are. Okay, and then after completing my BTech and joined in an organization after working for a couple of years on Java, that is when I have realized how easy these two terms are. Okay, it's so simple, guys. time complexity is nothing but the time that is spent by your program in your processor. I repeat, time complexity is nothing but the amount of time your program spends in a processor for its execution. Space complexity is nothing but the amount of space that is occupied by your program in RAM. Okay, so time complexity measures effectiveness of the code you have written in terms of the time occupied or the slots occupied in your processor. And space complexity defines the effectiveness of your code in terms of space occupied in RAM. Okay, as simple as that. The reason why product companies emphasizes a lot on these two is, what are the product they are creating, right? It should be the optimal in both the senses. Okay, it should be optimal in terms of time that is spending in the processor, and also it should be optimal in terms of the space it is occupying in the RAM. Okay, only when they will be able to release an optimal solution. Let's say you are using Outlook. So every time you open an Outlook and then it slows down your machine, will you be interested to use Outlook? Answer is a big no. Okay, so whatever the software you are using, right, it should go along with the other software. It should not be, consuming a lot of your resources. Okay, so that is the reason whatever the product company you are applying for, they emphasize a lot on time complexity and space complexity. They measure every line of your code in terms of time complexity and space complexity. Agreed? No? Yes, no, maybe. Are we good with these two terms, time complexity and space complexity at a high level? Forget about how we calculate it, but at least do you understand what is time complexity and what is space complexity? So basically, time complexity is nothing but the time that is spent by your program in a processor core. As simple as that. Say, for example, I'm running a VLC media player application. So how much time this VLC media player application program will run in your processor is what we refer to as time complexity. Okay, and then the space complexity is nothing but how much data it is going to occupy or how much space it is going to occupy in your RAM. Refers to the space complexity. Okay, like you create too many variables, like you create unnecessary data structures. So you will end up using or utilizing a lot of space in the RAM. Okay, so your program, whatever the program you are writing to develop any software, has to be time complex. I mean, time and space effective. So it should be consuming as less as possible time in your processor and as less space as possible in your RAM. Are we good now? Everyone? Yes, no, maybe. Okay, perfect. So good guys. I mean, the concept which took 5 years for me to understood, you are able to understand it in an hour. Okay. So how to calculate this time complexity and space complexity? That's altogether a different scenario. Okay. But this is what it is, guys. I mean, there is a reason why I have given you all this background. Trust me, you are going to appreciate it when we proceed further. Okay. Uh, we have been talking about Python, right? Does anyone of you have any idea who invented Python? To answer your question, Bharat, yes and no both. Okay, so wherever there is a scope, I'm gonna tell you the best practices of writing the code. Okay, but since we will not be covering data structures and algorithms in our course, I'll not be able to talk about time complexity and space complexity more. Okay, so we call the term as DSA, data structures and algorithms. Okay, which is very important when you are aiming for a product company. Okay, so generally this time complexity and space complexity would play a vital role for every data structure you create and algorithm you use. Make sense, Bharat? Perfect. Yes, Satish. So the guy who invented this beautiful programming language is Guido von Rosen. Guidovan Rossum. He's the guy who invented this beautiful programming language, Python. Okay. And right from the day one, I have fallen in love with this programming language. You know, I love Python more than my wife, guys. Okay. So that's how beautiful this language is. You will also definitely fall in love with this programming language. The reason being, I have come from Java background. Before starting Python, I worked on Java, I worked on Scala, and the moment I started working on Python, I was like, wow. Okay, the reason being, you don't need to write a lot of code, you don't need to memorize a lot of syntaxes, you don't need to take care of a lot of things. Python compiler is so intelligent, by itself it will be taking care of a lot of things which you don't really need to worry about. Okay, so that's the beauty of Python. Okay, so I am already appreciating Python, and you will start appreciating it very soon. I have a question from one of our participants. Can we know why are we not covering data structures and algorithms? So data structures and algorithms, to cover that topic itself would take 3 months easily. Okay, so that is the reason we don't want to get into the implementations of DSA. But in this programming language, Python, I'll be covering four important data structure collections, guys. We call that as collections framework, which is a list, tuple, set, and dictionary. Okay, I'll not be getting into the implementation of them, but I'll be covering what they are and what are the functions they have to offer as a framework in Python. Okay, and like I said, data structures and algorithms is not everyone's cup of tea. Let me be very honest. You know the reason why not everyone is able to clear the Google interview. Okay, so let me be realistic, guys, rather than uh, saying ki you will be able to clear Google interview in 2 months. No, that's definitely going to be a big joke. Okay, so it need some good number of, good number of hours of practice before you get into DSA. You need to know the programming language. You should be choosing one programming language for that. It could be any programming language, not specifically Python or Java or any other one, but you should have some good hands-on with a programming language. Okay, and then a lot of things will come up. So why we won't use those in Python? I mean, not in this class in general, I'm asking. So you will be using them. Say, for example, we use binary search, we use some sorting techniques in implementation. Okay, whenever you are you are implementing real-time projects, it's not that we won't use. Everyone want to write a good code. Yes or no? Okay. But in general, the emphasis for data structures and algorithms is pretty less when it comes to service-based companies, guys. Like I said, I have 8+ years of experience. So in service-based companies, they don't emphasize a lot on these data structures and algorithms. Okay, to be very honest, I have cleared more than 60, 70 interviews in last 8 years. The reason being, whenever I'm changing a company, I would make sure at least I have 10 offers so that I can join the one with the best offer, okay, or the best numbers, right? So in my experience, no company have emphasized on data structures and algorithms. Of course, I do avoid product companies like Amazon or Google or whatever it is. I have never been exposed to those interviews. But in my recent company shift, I have attended PayPal interview. PayPal based out of Chennai in India. Okay, so they have asked me questions on these data structures left, right, and center. Okay, so I was able to answer a few of them, and a few of them even I have never used. Okay, so if you think you should know data structures and algorithms to survive in the industry, that's wrong. Okay, so I have been ruling IT industry from past 8 years without knowing data structures and algorithms. I know them theoretically, but I have never deep dived into their implementation. Okay, did that make you feel comfortable? You don't really need to know data structures and algorithms to rule in IT area until and unless you are aspiring for Google, Amazon, Microsoft, you know, if you are aiming for them, yes, you should know data structures and algorithms. But like I said, this is going to be your first step, and I'm anyway gonna give you a GitHub link where you can get the implementations of all the algorithms and data structures. Make sense to everyone? Yes, no, maybe. Silence, a lot of silence. Does that make sense, guys? Okay, perfect. Oh, I didn't realize we crossed our time, but I guess that's okay. Okay, so guys, tomorrow we'll meet at 7:05 a.m. IST, and please be there on time. And if you missed some session, please go through the recording and get back to me if you have any questions. Okay. So once again, we thank you for giving us this opportunity to train you. Okay. And like I said, we will be giving our best to make you guys feel comfortable with the programming language or with Python especially. Okay. So if you have any questions or you want to discuss something, you can stay back. Else you are free to go, guys. We'll start tomorrow. We'll start Python from tomorrow. Okay, I'll wait for a couple more minutes. If you don't have any questions, I'll wrap up the session. Once again, thank you. Thank you so much. Good night and have a good day for folks joining from India. So we don't have a separate doubt session, Ramesh. So if you have any questions, you can ping in the class itself. Okay. So if your doubts are not clarified in the session, you can probably request for a one-on-one session with Career IT. So I will be joining that session and you and me can discuss. Okay. But mostly try to clarify your doubts in the session itself. Bharat, no. The course is strictly restricted to Python, but I'll be covering a couple of packages for data science, NumPy and NumPy Pandas, Matplotlib, and Seaborn. That too, we will not deep dive, but it will give you a high level exposure to how these packages are used. Okay, and I'll be covering JDBC. Python JDBC, but not web scraping and data engineering techniques, because those things will be anyway covered in data engineering course. Okay, and then please get in touch with CareerIT folks. They will be sharing the course content. Cool. Thank you guys. See you tomorrow. To answer your question, Ramesh, what about assignments? So this is please consider this training as a professional training, buddy. So don't expect a classroom kind of environment, where you have a class teacher give you assignment, check the assignment. No. So whatever I teach, I'll give you the source code, and I'll give you all the reference links for your practice. And it's up to you to practice. Okay. So we expect every one of you to be professionals here, right? So we don't do a classroom kind of teaching here. Make sense? Cool. Thanks, buddy. See you in the next class. Till then, have a good day, guys. Bye bye.